We're getting ready for our female founders panel, part 1. Please take a seat. And they asked me to tell you guys to move forward. So everybody get up, wave back, no more hiding. Switch up, come on, let's go. Get us steps in. See your front, your front. Y'all right? I don't know. Please come up front, person you. You don't want to mess with her. So she said you have to do it. The reason behind this panel is to bring some awareness to the lack of funding that female founders receive, first of all. And as you just heard, I have more of a bootstrap story. So everything I've learned from these ladies has blown me away. The facts I've heard about funding for females was something I almost couldn't believe and had to Google myself. I believed them, but I was like, really? Cannot be true. 1988 was the first year women could own a business without a co-signer, a male co-signer, and I was like, oh, we were girl, help me this. But anyway, here we are, doing our best. And I have 4 amazing women. The letters behind these ladies' names make me feel smarter just sitting here. And this chair was not planned. I would say whoever brought this chair, and I'm trying to take home. This was not planned at all. I am in love. So women like this are changing the landscape and the climate for VC funding for female founders. And you're going to hear some great stuff from them in just a second. I want to thank the Upstate Women's Founders Group for the connection that helped us find these fabulous women. And so what I'm going to do is stop talking and let them talk and introduce themselves. If you'll just tell us your name and company, what your company's problem solves, what you solve, and then how long it's been running, and a little quick bio, bragging yourself a little bit. We'll just start to my left and go down the line.
Hi there, I'm so happy to be here this morning. My name is Carrie Colbert. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I'm the founding and general partner of Curate Capital. We invest in extraordinary women who are building the products, services, and technology that the consumer wants for herself, her life, her home, and her family.
Good morning, South Carolina. So I'm bringing greetings from the great state of Georgia. Got here early this morning, but I am the founder of Panelist Capital Legal Advisors, and we help companies nationwide raise billions of dollars in private investment capital as a corporate securities law firm. And we're also an investment advisory firm, so we work with a lot of venture capital and private equity funds on clients and portfolio companies, and we also do business coaching. And I just finished publishing my latest book, which you can find on Amazon and Kindle, and I even have some author's copies with me, called Closer to a Yes, The Founder's Guide to Getting Noticed by Investors. That really takes the 17 years of experience helping companies raise capital to get them ready to receive their first dollar. So happy to be here.
Hello everyone, I am Lindsay Calcutt. I am one of the co-founders and CEO of Encore Health. I am located right here in Greenville, South Carolina, so happy to see a lot of familiar faces and have been really inspired meeting new founders also and seeing new founders in the room as well. So I started Encore Health about 2.5 years ago, and it was really just based off of my frustration of being a woman in healthcare. So Encore is really on a mission to empower women to really understand their body and to empower the clinicians as well to really understand women's health a little bit better. And the way we're doing that is a form of a wearable device of an earring. So we are tracking all kinds of different vital signs and biodata and providing insights for women to understand what's going on with their overall health based off of a woman's hormone cycle, whereas every other device on the market is based off of a man's hormone cycle. So that's a little bit about Encore. My background is I have a doctorate in biomedical engineering, so I'm a technical co-founder. And I started my career at Johnson & Johnson, big corporation, and I'm also a registered patent agent, did some IP law work, and then the past 10 years I've been involved with startup companies, all the way, from CPO, so product, operational, a lot of executive management roles in the medical device space. So now with Encore, this is my first company that I'm really focused on the consumer itself and also the clinic and the clinician. So really excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. You need to go to class. This sort of right? I'm Charlotte Lawson. I'm also local here to Greenville. I come at entrepreneurship, I think, through a somewhat unusual, maybe circuitous path. My background is in medicine. I'm an emergency physician, and I moved to Greenville in 2017 because I took a job out of residency at what was then GHS and is now Prisma Health. I then took a sabbatical to Boston to do the MBA program at Harvard and was practicing some virtual first care at that time, which led me to the problem that my company Darby now solves for. When you are working outside of a major health system, or really even if you're working inside of one and you need to work with partners that are outside of your health system, you are working with entities that are not digitally integrated with your entity. And as a result, unfortunately, the primary mode of information exchange is through electronic fax or other forms of PDF image-based files. The problem is that then these entities are exchanging unstructured data, and there are a litany of operational and financial and clinical outcome challenges that result from this low-quality information exchange. So our company, Darby, uses LLMs and other generative AI and non-generative AI technologies to solve that problem without requiring people like me to change their behavior, because that's very difficult. So we start from the unstructured data and make it structured, and happy to speak more about that another time. But, yeah.
So I love how light you're like, I went to Harvard. And I hope you guys noticed Lindsay said men have hormonal cycles. I'm just going to leave that right there. I always do it. And Darshana, you didn't tell us you're also a lawyer and you're in the government space as well. These ladies are crazy successful. They're so inspirational. So I'm going to start back right here with Carrie. Give us a quick snapshot of how it went for you starting your company and if you raised capital or not.
Certainly. Yeah, I do not come from a traditional VC background at all. I kind of stumbled into doing this. I'm from a very small town in Texas, was first in my family to go to college, and so all of my early decisions were just very pragmatic and practical in nature. Kind of had a rough childhood. I knew that education and professional success would be the key to kind of rising above that. And so in terms of what was I going to study? Well, it depended on where I got the best scholarships, and that happened to be in petroleum engineering at the University of Texas. And so I graduated at the top of my class of engineering, and then the best jobs were in Houston in the oil and gas market. And so I worked in that industry for almost 20 years and had a very successful career, got my MBA while I was working, and was head of finance and investor relations for the largest privately held oil and gas company in America. We started out as kind of a startup and scaled to be a multi-billion-dollar company while I was there. And it was really extraordinary. I was never passionate about the industry necessarily, but I had the incredible opportunity of working for this guy who's a billionaire now, and he ran the company in such an entrepreneurial manner. So that's really where I caught the entrepreneurial bug, so to speak. And part of that entrepreneurial culture was having ownership or equity in the company. And so that really afforded me the financial freedom to just kind of walk away from that career. I think I was about 38 when I did so, and I really didn't know what was next. And that was kind of unheard of. A lot of people were leaving, a lot of my colleagues to start their own oil and gas company at the time, and that would have been a safe option. You know, I knew how to do that business, but I knew I wanted something that aligned with my own personal passions and interests, more so for this next chapter. Well, I happened to be on social media in the early days. I was on Instagram the week it launched and grew a decent sized following back when it was easy to grow. And I only mentioned that because that's how I started investing. So I was kind of an influencer and was doing these brand collaborations, and I would just very naively ask, like, hey, if you're looking for any business advisors or investors or board members, like, I love your company, I'd love to pitch in. And so long story short, over a period of about 5 to 7 years, basically reinvested my own money into female-founded companies. And really 3 important things happened in that time period. One, I was having great fun. I enjoyed this work I was doing, and so that is not something I necessarily would have said about my previous career. So great fun, great results. I was seeing just with the infusion of capital and also support, you know, mentorship, advisorship, all that sort of things, these companies were really accelerating their growth. But then 3, and most importantly for my next step, was I saw the great opportunity set. The data shows us that women are chronically underfunded. Even in this year, in 2023, last year, the most recent data we have, women receive less than 2% of venture capital dollars. And you hear that a lot, and that's certainly abhorrent. But I think on the flip side, what's more exciting is that women are over-delivering. Study after study shows that women are very capital efficient, delivering a high rate of return for investors, exponential returns. There's one study, in fact, from the Boston Consulting Group that shows that for every dollar invested, female teams deliver 78 cents on the dollar, as opposed to all male teams deliver 31 cents on the dollar. So in that study, it wasn't even close. And there are other studies, and we are certainly not hating on anyone. I think there's value in diversity of input and diversity of expertise and background and all that. So we try to champion the cliche that we're better together. We want all sorts of input at the table. And so those 3 realizations led me to very naively take my next step, and that is starting a venture capital fund. I said, let's start a venture capital fund. That'll be fun, right? And so I really had no background in fundraising or fund administration, but I knew that I had the deal flow. That means in our world, I had a number of companies reaching out for funding. So I knew the opportunity set was rich, so I took that next leap and started a fund. Really in 2020, pandemic kind of delayed us, so we officially launched in 2021. Again, I knew nothing about fundraising. I've never been in a sales position. So I said, well, we'll just raise a small $10 million fund. That'll be easy, right? That is small in the venture world. And frankly, I didn't think we were going to get there. It was a struggle. Ultimately, though, we closed it about 50% over our goal, and we raised $15 million. And so while the result is good, what was even more inspiring and impressive to me was the how behind it. And what I mean by that is that we really activated a different demographic of investors. Over 80% of our investors are women. And then also, we didn't raise any money from really the East Coast or West Coast. We raised money from what I would call middle America. I would include y'all in that. I hope that's okay with you. But I mean from those non-traditional VC hotbeds, right? We didn't raise from New York City or Silicon Valley. We raised from Texas and South Carolina and North Carolina and Indiana and Tennessee and all those. So not only are we, we have women involved, which is unheard of. We have all these people that are new to venture capital putting their money behind powering these startups that really are the backbone of America. So right now, so that $15 million we raised, we've pretty much invested it all into 16 different companies, and now we're entering our next chapter. We're raising our next fund. We'll be launching it this fall, and we'll be targeting probably about $50+ million. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We're going to hear more about that in just a second. Darshan, quick snapshot of how starting your company went, and did you have to raise capital or not?
So I am an accidental entrepreneur. That's going to be the title of my 3rd book. But I grew up in Decatur, Georgia, and both of my parents were entrepreneurs. And growing up, I saw they didn't have access to people who understood what they were going through, people that looked like them, that shared in their cultural background and experience. And so I decided to go to law school, specifically do corporate work. And then after law school, my law firm imploded. And so I ended up starting my business because necessity is the mother of all invention. So I had to pay some bills as an adult, and so started my firm. And then shortly after I got elected, I started getting access to a lot more information, just how big the gap is between female and male funding, but also between non-white and white funding, and just got very, very passionate about this issue, and so focused a lot of my professional career on that. So I help companies with legal compliance, raising billions of dollars. I specifically started a all-female, black female-led real estate syndication about 4 years ago in Georgia, where we used an exemption to securities laws in order to purchase commercial real estate in Georgia. So we have been raising money through that, not through my law firm, but nothing gives me joy than to speak to clients that have, passed that next hurdle and are really focused on getting to that goal. So I haven't raised money for my law firm, but every time I get a call from a founder that has reached a milestone, nothing makes me happier.
Same question.
So raising money, the answer to that is yes. And I actually call myself sometimes a chief begging officer because as a founder of a hardware and software company, raising money is, seems like the thing I do quite often and, all the time. When we have an open round, yes, raising money. When we do not have an open round, at least preparing for the next round, because that is really what takes the most time anyways. So we are opening up a Series A round next quarter, so Q1 of next year. But yes, we're always raising money. We have been very successful on like friends and family, angels. We just brought in our first VC money about 3 months ago, and they came in then, and then now they're already wanting to invest again because they are seeing that, what Carrie's saying, that women do meet their milestones and they're very successful and very even gritty and with the money. So what's very interesting during our fundraising journey, not being in Silicon Valley or New York, where we have a lot of the access to traditional VC for this, highly technical women's healthcare company, we have actually been able to convert our customers over to investors as well. So we were able to get a lot of funding from our clinical collaborators and partners, and that in turn actually helped us fund all of our product development and also a fully paid clinical trial as well, which is, if you're in the medical world, that's somewhat unheard of. So that's definitely one of the things that has catapulted us to be able to meet milestones and to be able to be more or less, very strategic about how we're bringing in money. And at the end of the day, that helps us as founders, that helps the company overall because we still have a good bit of control of our company. And then we have more allocated that we're able to have in a pool for additional venture capital coming later stage. So yeah, that's generally our journey. It's not the traditional journey, but we're able to take advantage of the resources that we have in South Carolina, and also just recently got some venture capital money as well from New York City.
All right, Charlotte, tell us your story and we'll keep learning.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick and we can double click on anything folks are interested in later. But we've raised venture capital money. We've also raised from angels, and we will soon be doing a close with our first strategic investor, Asterix. It's a little unusual, so like the normal, strategics early, like I don't think doesn't apply to this particular one. We can talk about that. I would not have founded this company, and I certainly wouldn't have raised any money if people around me at the time that I had the idea hadn't said, you could build a company around that. People will give you money for that. Like, I'm the kind of person who's my whole life been like, wouldn't it be cool if, and so that wasn't actually that unusual. What was unique about this time was, I had an actual fundable idea, which wasn't always true, and I was around people who told me I could do it, and then knew how to do it, right? So I had signed up for an internship with the chief medical officer of Humana, who's also a physician, for my summer between first and second year in business school. And at the buzzer, I had to get her on Zoom and say, will you be really, really mad if I go and try to fund my company instead? And she was really gracious, and that I'm very glad for that. I didn't get any trouble with career services at Harvard, which is good. I spent the summer with my co-founder basically saying, let's see if we can raise money around this idea. And we were certainly fortunate that it was 2021, but it still felt hard at the time. It was a different environment. I can see now how it was easier then, but it still felt hard as a newbie. And I learned a lot. And we can maybe talk about some of those learnings a little later.
Awesome, thank you so much. So we're going to get a little bit more micro in here and make sure we have enough time to hear all of your amazing stuff. Let's try to cover these in about 1 to 2 minutes each. So I'm going to go back to Lindsay. You told me something about 80% of your time explaining concepts to the VC firms and what that meant. So how important is it to tweak your presentation when you're approaching a VC firm to better your chances of getting their attention? Tell us what that meant for you.
Yeah, great question for sure. And typically, in my experience with venture capital and doing pitches, most of them are virtual, probably about 90% of them, because the firms that I am speaking with are a lot of in the more of the hubs. And generally, what that really looks like for a first intro call is a maximum 30 minutes. So a 30-minute Zoom call, if you think about that, how do you actually be productive during that short amount of time? Because you want to tell them everything about your company, right? And you're like, this is the best thing, you have to invest, you're going to make your money back, and plus more and more and more, right? But the key thing is, and I've learned this, is they really want to know the founder. They want to know you as a person. And they want to really know that you as a founder, you as a CEO, you as a COO, whatever your role is in the company, can actually prove that you can meet your milestones and actually make it to the next phase, and you are a fundable company. You can have the best product, you can have the best idea, but if you can't execute, that's really where a lot of failures happen. So one of my big takeaways on at least the first conversation is treat it like a conversation. Get to know them, get them to know you too, because if your authentic self really comes across, then you'll really see that there's a connection, and if that connection is on, it makes sense to take money, and it makes sense to, give equity. Because at the end of the day, you're treating it kind of like a marriage. You're kind of built in as a partner. So if you get VC money, and it's really hard sometimes, and I've even had to say no to some money just because I'm like, well, your ideas about our next milestones and go to market or strategy of when we exit or whatever it may be may not align. That's really not a good fit, even though at some points you might be like, I really need the money. So you have to really know what your mission is and really kind of the end goal and what is the most valuable for your company, because sometimes the money is not the most valuable as well. So yeah, especially in that first pitch, just get to know each other. And if you do have decks, a lot of times, like in my experience, the VCs, they actually don't like to do that formal presentation on the very first conversation. But if they do prefer that, I would recommend just keeping it 5-8 minutes, so then you can really get to know who they are and who you are. So that would be my recommendation on that.
And you told me that because you happen to have a product specifically just for women, it took 80% of your pitch time just to get the men to be like, what is it? And
yeah.
How does it even make, is that a problem? Yes, it's a problem. So the
yes,
point was get to your pitch really quickly about why this isn't a need in the first place that you may not have had. Not your fault, you haven't had this need, you're a man, but here's why it is important to women. I'm going to get straight to the data and tell you about it so that now I can spend the rest of my time talking about what actually matters.
Yeah, and that's definitely been one of the challenges with then really kind of reaching out to the VC world. And someone told me that you have to meet 100 duds to meet your one stud, right? So that's 100 pitches, and you maybe get one yes. So it's really hard. And the more and more you do it, you're like, oh, when is it ever going to be a yes? And a lot of my challenges around that is the space that we're in, and the space we're building is women's health specifically. In fact, like femtech, and also, the education on really, the majority of the VC community, they're, white men. So white men are like, yes, healthcare is interesting. Yes, healthcare has a big market, but why women health specific? Is that not so niche, right? However, every person in the world has a woman connection. Everybody has a mother. So everyone needs to be excited about women's health. And the challenges of kind of educating of where we are right now on a women's health platform and the understanding of the data and the knowledge that we have in the healthcare system for women is so far behind, and getting, just up to speed for the men and the women, really, that are in the VC community. It's challenging for me to have to, only have this 30-minute window of pitching myself, pitching the company, the financials, the kind of everything, to get at least to that next call. And even providing enough information on, hey, what we're doing is so valuable, and the education around it to even understand the value is a lot of the challenge with that.
Yeah. So Charlotte, I want to ask you the same question. You talked about patterns that VC looks for. Tell us a little bit more about what that means when pitching and tweaking your pitch.
Well, I mean, Carrie's probably the authority on this, but I can just say from my own anecdotal experience that, I noticed a similarity as I went sort of, virtual door knocking each time we've raised money, between the way that my presentation, both the deck and the way that I speak about our company, a similarity between that and my experience in academic medicine. In academic medicine, when you want to present at a conference, or you want to get let's just take presenting at a conference, you submit an abstract. You're like, hey, this is what I'm going to talk about. This is what my poster or my speech will be about. You want me to come? And so it is sort of like a pitch, right? And when I was a medical student, one of my things that my research mentor taught me was that there is a norm around like the shape of your abstract. And so that, an abstract is one pager, and that if you print off the abstract, no matter how good the content is, how compelling the study is that you did, or the topic is that you organized information around, that if the background is the half of the page, and then the methods and the results are, these tiny little sections, the conclusion's huge, the shape, without reading a single word, person doesn't know what they're doing. And so I found that there were certain things that I was accidentally stumbling into as someone who had never raised venture funds, and there's not like a class in the first year at least out of HBS around like, here's how you raise venture money. So, and certainly there's not my class in medical school. So I didn't know what I was doing. And it was a lot of experimentation, and I learned that there were some of these things, like the shape of your deck, or the way that you presented your TAM, top down, and sort of things like that. And so we can go point by point on what some of the patterns are, but I think the key is just understanding like what is the VC looking for at, and it seems almost unfair that there would be these patterns, but then you put yourself in the VC's shoes and you think about that deal flow. Carrie's got so many deals coming across her desk. How is she gonna know where to spend her time? She has to have some patterns. And some of the patterns actually are unfair, unfortunately, right? Like, because what is the pattern of a successful entrepreneur to date? Unfortunately, the majority of successful entrepreneurs like look and sound a certain way. And we are trying to break some of those patterns, right? So not every pattern has the same validity, but some do, some really do. And being able to convey that you understand that is, I think, can be helpful to being successful.
Yeah, so I wish you could have heard more. She talked a lot about all these different platforms. She went and dug and studied and learned. She said, I had no idea how to pitch to not stand out like a sore thumb. But look what she did. She went and learned. So she made sure it looked like she'd done this before and faked it till she made it, and it worked. So pitching very quickly and honing in on your stump speech so you can get their attention faster, and making sure that you look like you know what you're doing.
Well, I did do it before, and I did it really badly. Like that's like, it wasn't like I showed up the first time, it was great. And I tell you, I just did it really badly a lot of times.
I think we've all done that. So yeah, we've all learned from our mistakes. Okay, I'm gonna go to Darshan. You said that even though you're a lender, you said your VC is not always the route to go. Tell us why you say that.
Well, the first thing is there's so many ways to raise capital.
Yeah.
One of the things that I do with client consultations is give them the whole landscape. This is how you raise money. There's lots of different options out there, and then ask them leading questions, because venture is looking for a particular type of entrepreneur. And so venture is not for everybody, or maybe it's for you down the line, but venture capital is a very specific type of funding with certain requirements that you're not going to get from family and friends and angel investors, and if you get, some type of bank loan. So for me, making sure that entrepreneurs understand that they have options is one of the reasons why I say venture is not for everyone. One, you have to be immensely prepared. Two, you have to be able to scale really, really fast, because that's just the venture capital world. And three, you're going to have to understand, it's like a whole, when I was going to law school, they tell us it's a whole different language. I'm sure it's like that in medical school. Your first year is like a whole different vocabulary. And when you get into the venture space, it's similar, knowing the different terms that are in different types of documents. So it's one of those things I tell people not to automatically think of venture capital when you think of raising capital. Like there's stages and there's different options that you go to before you scale up to venture. So that's why I say venture is not for everyone.
Right, we were talking earlier about there's a lot of other options. It's right for some and not for some. So Carrie, you had also
Can I make a plug for South Carolina before we move on?
Yeah.
So everyone in South Carolina, if you are a founder, there are a couple of things you can do, and grant monies is an awesome way to do it. Before you get into figuring out what the VC world even looks like, or PE, or anything of that nature, that you're actually taking in money to give away some of your company. South Carolina, especially like South Carolina Research Authority, SCRA, they really set you up well with a couple of different stages of grant money if you're a technical company. And also they provide mentorship around how to even start thinking about if you are a VC investable company and things of that nature. So just wanted to make that quick plug. There are also a lot of other grant opportunities within the state and nationally too that you should definitely check out. And if you're not familiar with it, I know there are a couple of representatives around this conference that would love to talk to you.
Yeah, and that's what NextGen is all about, is giving that mentorship and advice as well. So Carrie, you said someone who's thinking maybe leaving a family legacy might not want to go the VC route. Can you kind of expand on that?
Sure. First of all, I think you've gotten great feedback from all of these, and I'd like to dive into a little of those. But yeah, VC, you're basically getting on a treadmill that comes with both spoken and unspoken expectations. And you're spot on. It's not for everyone. And not being from a conventional VC background, I kind of challenge some of the status quo. And I really tell founders, don't raise VC money, probably more times than I say, yes, raise VC money. I'm like, no, you don't understand what you're signing up for when you do this, right? Or this isn't a good fit for your company. And as a VC investor, I don't make any money until you sell your company. So if you're not signing up for that race, where you're all in and you're gonna work your ass off, you got the okay to say ass off. I heard. For 5, 7, 10 years and then sell it, that's the only way that I can make money, essentially, right? And so I'm not taking dividends, or we're not doing profit sharing along the line. I'm betting on you to grow this thing really big and then ultimately have that exit, whether that's to a strategic, to private equity, an IPO, or something like that. So really that's what I'm partnering with you on. But there are so many other ways to grow incredible businesses. Venture capital is not inherently better or superior than other options. It is just an option. And so really talk to someone like this wonderful colleague of mine here. She's speaking a lot of truth and wisdom here. It is not for everyone, and you need to understand the implications before you sign up for that ride. Secondly, I'll say that these ladies were spot on. You need to know that you're solving a big problem, and that you need to know really who to pitch that to, right? So even if you are going the VC route, there are ways to do it that work and ways to do it that don't. And I gotta say, I had the opportunity to meet with both Charlotte and Lindsay yesterday. They did things so well. Charlotte, has this very a specific problem that she's addressing in the healthcare industry. Well, I'm not in that industry every day, and I prepared and I thought I understood the problem, but she did something genius. She stole my planner and pen from me, and she starts making a chart
with your permission.
Yeah, she stole it from me. That's true. Yeah, she starts drawing out a sketch of the flow of data and information, and I'm like, Yes, okay, I get it now. So she painted the picture of the problem for me and then her solution to it. And so, yeah, there's so many things that these women have said that are so true. Like Lindsay, I jokingly refer to the founder-investor relationship like a marriage, except without the good parts of marriage. Love and whatever else you want to lump in there.
Yeah.
Because there's really not a way to unwind it. So
Yeah.
once you make that commitment and if you accept that money, it's tough to get out of it, so you better like the person that you're getting into that contract with. So getting to know the person is key. Lindsay and I spent a lot of time just getting to know each other yesterday, and you've got to like the person. So lots of wisdom here, and I want to leave people with the bottom line that you don't have to raise venture capital to have a very successful business. When I came into this world, I came from a company that was very transparent about our numbers and we were very bottom line focused. And when I came to this world that's more top line focused, I was kind of blown away by all these founders that wear it as a badge of honor almost, how much VC money they've raised. Yeah. I can think of a number of people, men and women. One woman comes to mind. She's out there selling courses right now because she's raised $30 million in VC money, but she lost every penny of it. Her company collapsed. And so, I guess good on you for raising money, but ultimately people lost on that deal. And so raising money is not the name of the game. Building a successful, sustainable business is the name of the game. So keep that in mind. Like, just because you can't raise money doesn't mean you're a failure. Just because you do raise money doesn't mean you're a success.
Yeah, it's a big buzzword and it seems like it's the right thing to do, but it doesn't mean it's a fit for you.
Yeah,
So we need to make sure that it is. All right, I want to move to
And it's hard too because that's what gets picked up in the press.
Yes.
Right? So that's what gets highlighted is, these companies are successful because they raised multi-millions and, keep going on and on valuation, which makes sense, but that's not the only, criteria or metric you need to be looking at.
Well, I was going to you next, so tell us a little bit of out-of-the-box ways to raise money in about 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah, sure. So I touched on it briefly that what has worked well for us has been really turning in, our potential customers into investors. And that's really gotten us through, I would call even like the pre-seed round, because we are a pre-revenue company right now. So a lot of our projections are based off of, what I just said, projections, since we are not taking in revenue right now. So that has worked just because it really, that the end user and also the clinical community has really seen such a value in our products. So they haven't even, committed to being like, I'm a customer 100%. I know all these people that want to come on as a customer, but we need to get this. And I believe in this so much. And I believe in the team that's around the company so much that, hey, I'm going to come over and be an investor. I also mentioned that we took advantage of some grant money. Being a technology company and in healthcare as well, we were able to take advantage of NIH money and also some regional and local money as well. And then we have tapped into friends and family and angels. So it has been a slow process compared to some of these other big hubs, but I've kind of enjoyed it like that because it makes me be grittier and scrappier, and the challenge is even there to even get to that next step. And we're not having, hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank or tens of millions or even millions of dollars in the bank and then potentially learning on someone else's money.
Yeah, you're getting the experience, so you will never be taken advantage of, right? Darshan, I want to move to you. You had said 2 big focal points about having a why and staying prepared. We're kind of switching gears a little bit. It's more mentality. This is kind of what your book touches on. And I was really inspired by the things that you told me. Do you want to just talk about knowing your avatar and those 2 big points you said were so important?
Yeah, so I am big into making sure that the people that I work with and the founders really understand the journey that they're going on, because capital raising is a journey. It's not a sprint, it's definitely a marathon. And so getting their mind right to understand that there are going to be hard times, very hard times, impossible times, is really important to me to get them to closer to that yes. And so one of the things, or 2 ways to do that, there are many, but the top 2 reasons is always being prepared. So nothing beats preparation. I mean, YouTube, I literally taught myself how to write a book on YouTube. So there's no reason why you shouldn't be learning your craft and learning something every single day and consulting with good people. To your point, I tell people the number one reason that investors invest is the team, because a great idea just sits on the shelf without execution. So making sure that you're surrounding yourself with good people and being prepared is key. But then the second thing is remembering your why. So my why are my parents, because they were entrepreneurs. My mom gave me my inspiration, my dad gave me my perspiration, as I say. Because he was the hardest working man that I know. And so if you ever go to my home office, you will see pictures of them and me as a kid everywhere. They are the reason that I do the work that I do, particularly because I grew up in a household where they didn't have access to people like me and the knowledge and things. And so it inspires me each and every day. So when things get hard, or I have to deal with a difficult client, or there's just something personally or professionally that I'm going through, those are my why. Everybody has a story, a different why they got into this position. Think of something physical that you can put around your house to remind you of your why. Because those hard times, I promise you, you're either leaving a hard time or on your way into one. That's just life. And so making sure that you have that why is extremely important. So being prepared and remembering your why are two things that I tell founders all the time. You have to keep top of mind.
And it sounds like, well, that's not rocket science, but are you doing it? And that's the thing, it sounds so simple and it's so overlooked and so missed. And I think there's a common theme here of know what this world is like, be very, very prepared for it so that you stand out and not in a bad way. Carrie, you said something that struck me very, I was surprised to hear this word from you. I said, what do you look for when you're looking to invest in someone? Character was one of them, I won't say all of them, but you wouldn't think that'd be one of the words that you hear, but we expand on that.
Yeah, to me, we are investing in people as much as the business. And, we've got a very thorough due diligence process and very thorough. I'm very proud of team, not me, but people behind me that have developed this great process for analyzing the data and all that sort of stuff. And that's great. However, I've been in this business long enough to know that where things can really trip up, though, is on the human side. And it's a question I ask myself often, like, how do I do diligence on someone's character? I don't have the perfect answer, but I'm looking for people that are going to do the right thing, that they're going to have high moral standards and high ethics, and not just follow the letter of the law, but really the spirit of agreements and the spirit of business. And so, as things progress in your business, there are going to be lots of opportunities to, look at what's in it for me versus what's in it for all of my stakeholders. And so, it's very difficult to really, determine that. That's why I really believe in relationship-based investing. So that doesn't mean that you have to, come from, a privileged background or anything, but it means that you start forming those relationships now before you need money, right? And so even though you might be too early for my company to invest right now, let's get to know each other. Show me your pitch deck, show me your product, show me, just who you are as a person, and then include me on your investor updates or your quarterly reports or whatever it is. Like, let's form that relationship so not only can I get to know your character, but you can get to know mine. Because once you form that relationship, again, it's nearly impossible to unwind it without serious, implications. So let's get to know each other today so that down the road, when you are seeking investment, when I am ready to write a check, it's a no-brainer for both of us.
Love that, thank you. Charlotte, since we can't all go to Harvard and be
I hope everyone knows you went to Harvard.
What would give someone more confidence? Where should they start? You rattled off a couple of software platforms.
Yeah, how strict are we going to be on the 1 to 2 minute rule? I'll honor it, but we can just grab me after if you want the full list.
Yeah, okay. Rattle off a few.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is make sure that you even need to go down this path, right? So we already touched on it, I won't expand, but make sure that venture capital is actually something you think is a good fit for your business. And if you're not sure, then talk to some folks at NextGen or talk to someone on this panel. You're welcome to contact me. We're happy to walk you through that. And then you need to have so you decided you're going to raise venture capital. You need to have some sense of what is your value prop? What is it that you are asking an investor to invest in? And are you ready, right? So you decide you want to raise venture capital money. Now it's like, okay, well, are you VC backable? Maybe those things are two sides of the same coin. Like, is this a good fit for venture? Is venture a good fit for you, and are you a good fit for venture? Assuming you've done all that, then there's a couple things you got to do. You got to come up with some initial terms for your round. What are you going to target for evaluation? What mechanically, how are you going to do this? Are you going to raise on a safe or a convertible note? Unlikely, but are you going to raise like a priced round? How are you going to do that? And probably won't know the answers to those questions, so you'll want to get some advice. Again, happy to be a sounding board for folks. But in terms of the more tactical resources, first thing you want to do is just get some semblance of a skeleton for a pitch deck, because probably what you think you should make is wrong.
Yeah.
I consider myself a smart person. What I made was wrong. So there are a lot of different ideas out there. If you want to just grab one off the shelf, I am not saying this is the best one, but like a starting point might be like Guy Kawasaki, 10 slides. Like, just start there and iterate from there. You then got to figure out like who are you going to approach as when you want to go meet these VCs. And you probably won't know anybody. Again, that's the situation I found myself in. Mm-hmm. So you'll want to go to an academic resource, maybe Clemson or Furman, maybe NextGen has a subscription to a resource like PitchBook. And you'll want to go on to PitchBook and find like 150 or so VCs that are a stage fit, thematic fit. Maybe you've got some demographic characteristic that's an extra nice fit for them. They've deployed capital recently. The fund is hopefully not so big that you are going to have a hard time justifying that you can return the fund, because that's what they're looking for. And so now you're narrowing that all down, and then you've got your list. And what I would recommend, again, it would be good to find somebody who can be like a sanity check for you, like look at the deck, look at the list of investors. And again, if you don't have access to somebody like that, go to NextGen. And then, so you've got your deck, you've got your draft list of investors, and so my advice on where to go from there would be to actually send just 5, maybe, cold emails to an investor. This is assuming you don't want any investors who can make a warm intro, because obviously that's better. Send it to somebody who's actually probably not a good fit for you. Send it to somebody who's not going to invest. You're too early. They do consumer, you're B2B, something like that, but where they're likely to take an intro meeting. Probably the stage fit's the best one to be off on. And then what you can do is, if they like you, they can intro you. They can be the warm intro to all the other people, and when they get asked, well, why aren't you investing? It's really easy, it's objective, they're not a stage fit, blah, blah, blah. And, yeah.
In the 1 minute.
Go ahead.
Do you want Q&A? No time for that.
Apologies.
I couldn't bring you guys in. You're too fun to listen to. So, on Q&A, or you want to?
I do want to do a plug for South Carolina again, since I'm here, right? One quick plug for South Carolina on this, though, from all that you're talking about, awesome. Kind of the steps of how you get there. And there's so many good resources in Greenville and in the state. So for all the founders out here that maybe they even have just an idea and they haven't even taken the next step, NextGen is wonderful. They have so many programs of just kind of getting you involved with, hey, what is your idea and where do you go next? All the way from the BMS program, where you can have a team of mentors. I see one of my mentors back there, Joe, and it's been a fabulous support to have 3 or 4 people that have already kind of done it, been there. They really can guide you through a couple of things you need to do to be either VC investable, or maybe you're looking at family office, or maybe you're looking for other grant money or whatever it may be. Then they also have an accelerator program as well, and that's where I believe some of these pitches came from. We were a part of that. Awesome, really, perfecting your pitch deck, perfecting your story too. Story is really big. And then if you're not in Greenville, I see John Hanna's here at Clemson, so they have a great Launchpad program for entrepreneurs, so if there are any students here. Also, I'm sure Brian is bouncing around from Furman. So Furman has a wonderful program as well. Greer platform has great. So we have so many opportunities. Just start asking questions and get to know like what resources we do have. And there are a lot of people that want to help.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say on that.
So what I'm going to do is tell you what they told me in 60 seconds, and then we're going to wrap it up and we'll do this again. So Darshan said that make sure you know you're in the right place. She said this is the right place. She said capital space is trending more than ever, so good job being here. Carrie said make sure you do your homework and don't get paralyzed by over-analysis. Charlotte said to get that ball rolling and don't worry about being annoying and just being bold and making the ask. And Lindsay said don't be a perfectionist. It can hinder your growth. Pick people that are 5 to 10 years from where you are and study them. So I want to thank you ladies, but I want to wrap this up with the fact that our October's Founders Forum is coming up October 8th at 5:30, and it's a collaborative panel discussion between the Chamber of Commerce, Community Works, and Village Launch. It's focused on access for funding to diverse and minority founders, but it's really relevant to absolutely everyone. So please share the word, and you can register now on our website. Give these ladies a hand. We're going to rotate to another place.